Try these 3 things if you want to get more out of the books that you read. I don't think that you need to utilize every little bit of information that you get from books, but if you can pull just one lesson that sticks out from any book or longer piece of content that you read, you can consider it a bargain on your time and money. For the $20 that a book costs, even one lesson can change your life. So I want to share 3 of the rules that I've kind of created for myself that help me to get more out of everything that I read that are worth trying if you want to optimize the books that you read. And I've realized that over time, I read less and less new books and more choose to be refined on which books I'm reading and what information I'm trying to incorporate into my life. So that's where I came up with this idea of the reread rule. To utilize more of what you read may be a worthy goal. I find less and less value over time in reading new books. Unless it's a radically different idea or I really like the author, I'm more inclined to go back and reread the books that I've found amazing over time and now do it about 20% of the time rather than picking up a new book and just reading through something else that I'm not necessarily going to get a lot of new information from. I've found that we are drowning in so much mediocre content today that it's much better to return to books and authors that you know are right up your alley and that you really resonate with, rather than trying to always just start reading another book. And that leads me into my second point, which is to stop chain smoking. Just like a chain smoker will light up one cigarette with the last one, many book lovers, and I've been guilty of this over time for sure, we start the next book the moment that the last one is finished. And while this isn't as harmful to your health as chain smoking, it is harmful to what you're learning and trying to utilize from the books that you read, because you immediately drown out that information without giving it a chance to process from the book that you finished when you just jump into starting the next one. So I now force myself to pause a while after each book that I've read to wait and sort of process and think about what's been in the book, what do I want to convert into notes that I'm going to store and maybe use for content or for writing, or just an important idea that I think is worth keeping. And so that leads me into the third point, which is how do you keep this information in memory and make it stick? And I've found that the best way to do this is through building your second brain. Tiago Forte has a great book called Building a Second Brain, as well as an online course that goes through this whole process of learning what we call personal knowledge management or digital information management. Learning a personal knowledge management technique like building a second brain is super powerful for knowing where all of the content that you capture gets stored so that you can retrieve it and make use of it appropriately in the future, whether that's in writing articles or blog posts or creating videos online, whatever you want to do, or even to help your work if you're learning something, trying to take away new skills from the books and the content that you read. Having a way to easily, rapidly retrieve it and know exactly what you're looking for is what personal knowledge management is all about. And even if I am reading a hard copy of a book, all of my notes get stored digitally. There are authors and readers that like to use things like an index card system that I know Ryan Holiday has made very popular, and he keeps all of his notes on these physical index cards inside of giant boxes that he sorts them through. I've tried that in the past. I found that it was hard to stick to and didn't really have the space or the time to kind of put into something like that. That's why for me, digital systems work much better. Also, because I'm often working in different locations, I think that that physical index card system or something like that seems to work best if you are working in just one space. Although I know Ryan's also talked about ways that he travels with his index card boxes. So instead, I've found that Readwise is one of the most valuable pieces of software that I now use, particularly because any highlight you capture, whether it's on Kobo or Kindle, or you import them from a different e-reader and put them into Readwise, they all get sorted and stored seamlessly in my notes. And for me, that is in Notion, that I use particularly the most these days for storing any of my book notes or highlights from content online. But it also syncs with whichever other personal knowledge management software you like to use, like Evernote or Obsidian or Roam. A lot of these are popular and easy ways to get started with building this second brain idea. And even better to me is that Readwise sends a daily reminder of some of the notes and highlights so that they can be reviewed. And this helps you to bring back old information and remember it, and maybe have inspiration to use it again in something that you're working on. You don't have to use Readwise. For sure, you can just do this manually and just copy and paste over any of the highlights. Even if I'm reading a physical book and making highlights in it, I will still often buy a digital copy of the book just because I find it easier to sync like the Kindle version of the highlights rather than typing them all out. And I just like to save the time and do it that way. But you can also just type out any of the notes from a book and store them in whichever notes app that you want to use so that you can go back and pull them. So for me, while there are ways to keep all of your book notes on paper, I think that transferring them all to digital storage for safekeeping and easy use on creating content online is the way to go. So to recap, and the ways that I've found that I use more of what I read and help to draw it from memory so that I can talk about it, whether it's with friends or for content, is first reread more great books. Remember, I like to aim for 20% of the books to be rereads. Stop chain smoking your books. Always pause, reflect, and take some time before starting another one rather than just jumping into that next book. And build a second brain to store book highlights or notes from any type of content that you read online in a system that's easy for you to use. I hope you find these 3 practices to be useful for using more of the information that you read and not getting stuck in just constantly starting the next most popular book, instead being more deliberate with how you choose what to read and what you're going to utilize that information for. And as of recording this, I think that Amazon Prime Day is next week, so there's going to be a lot of books on sale, especially even bestsellers if you're looking to pick up something, and likely the Kindle devices. So I know I talk about Kindle a lot on this channel, and if you're interested in checking out Kindles, hold off until next week because they are likely going to be on sale for probably like something like 30% off, and it'll be a great time to pick up the device that I think is the best for reading in the summertime to make use of in the bright sun, at the beach, at the lake, wherever. Kindle is my all-time favorite like summer device for reading. And in this video, I know I focused mostly on written books, but if you're interested in checking out how I take audiobook notes, check out this video here next.